Thanks, Chris. One of the things that we get really excited about at C3 is when we can connect alliances, churches, individuals, businesses, and when a connection comes together that really furthers the kingdom work. And so we have an opportunity to talk a little bit about that today. Let me introduce TJ Hubbard. TJ's with Strides Tutoring, and he is the community developer. And he's going to tell us a little bit about a great opportunity that he had through a connection made here at C3. So, TJ, why don't you start, if someone's not familiar with Strides Tutoring, how about the 30-second overview of what you do?
Sure. Strides Tutoring is an alliance with the 3C that focuses on remedial education for children ages 7 to 20. We've been doing that for about 14 years now. Faith-based mission that works here within about 7 different locations in New York State with reading, writing, and math.
Great, thanks. And a couple of months ago, you spoke at part of the Spotlight, and you told us about what Strides does, and you had a really interesting connection that came out of that.
Yeah.
Could you tell us about how that came about and what it was about?
Sure, absolutely. So through connectivity with the 3C, I was able to meet up with Curtis Carr, a gentleman who's not here today, he meant to be here, his apologies. He works with House of Rayford. We made a connection, we invited Curtis out to see Strides, see what Strides was about. As it comes to find out, House of Rayford has a great heart for education in their philanthropic outreach program. And because of that, we were able to kind of come together, and House of Rayford sponsored $1,000 to Strides Tutoring. This would be the part where I'd say, let's give him a hand, but he's not here, but we can do it anyway.
Good, thank you. And has this been like part of an ongoing relationship that you're starting to develop with House of Rayford?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing that I talked to Arnold about that's very important, if you are in alliance, it's just as important for you to understand if you're building relationships. There are 8,000 of us in South Carolina alone. So when you're making a connection with a business, it is your responsibility to introduce them and become a connection with them, not just call them up, hey, give me some money. That's not how this is going to work. It's not going to build anything positive. You want your relationship to be reflective of the core values of the 3C. They need to find value in your connectivity with you through faith, through their personal outreach. We need to figure out what they're about. They need to figure out what you're about. And that's where we found that connectivity with Curtis Carr. He led 2 different prayers when we had our first meetings, and just all in all, it was fantastic coming together. So,
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Give TJ a hand. So as Chris mentioned in the setup, this is really what this organization is about, is connecting people who have a passion for a particular ministry with other people who might have that same passion. So as an individual, as a business owner, as a pastor, if you hear of an alliance and what they're doing and there's a passion to get involved, if you don't know them, I can serve as a connector, part of what we want to do. For those of us who are alliance members out there, if you want to have an opportunity to talk about a success story similar to this, or be a part of the Spotlight, please see me and we can get you scheduled for the future. Thank you.
That's very important. So connecting the groups that are in this room is one phase of it, and that's an activation phase, but the end result is what we like to see come out of this group, is to finally impact our city for transformation, and it happens by us connecting together. This is the start of how it happens. And so if you know of a success story already, or you're part of that as a business, an alliance, or an individual, or a church, if that's already going on, we'd love to hear about it actually. Because we want to tout what is going on and what God is doing for these groups that are in here. So for our business spotlight, I'd like to invite Gary Tompkins up. And this is a new format for interviewing, so we're going to try this out with Gary. I told him I had control of the mic. But first of all, tell us who you are and a little bit about your business.
Okay, first thing I like to do is introduce my team over here. Come on, guys, stand up. So, in a nutshell, we're an executive recruiting firm, and this is our 21st year. So one thing that sets us apart is we really go into depth with our candidates and into depth with our client companies to find out what's going to be the right fit. So it's a very systemic process designed by engineers and honed by engineers. So that's exactly what we do in a nutshell, and our niche is manufacturing primarily in the southeast.
He's already answered the second question, so tell us why you're a member of C3.
That's the easy one. I have a couple people in my life that are heroes. Lisa Van Riker's here. She's a hero. She started the Ombudsman Center 26 years ago. Yeah, she worked with us. She was in Smell. William Renfro over here, another hero. These are men that I've seen and women that bring God into the workplace. And that's one thing I would love to do, is to combine business and ministry. So that's the reason that I'm behind South Carolina Christian Chamber of Commerce. I'm very good.
Tell us how you integrate your faith in your business.
For me, that's easy. I spoke here a couple months ago. You know, since I started the company, I had a friend, Keith Giddens, who gave me the power and privilege to invite people to share your faith while you're at work. And I've done that since day one. And it's just who I am, what I do. And I often joke that I run my recruiting firm to support my mission habits.
And then, of course, the theme for this month is beyond servant leadership. So can you tell us how you apply your servant leadership to impact the community?
One of the things I believe is that you can't rely on actions to get you into heaven. But when you have the Holy Spirit in your body, your actions should speak loudly in the community. So Female Women's Center, I was on board for 6 years. Started with a little budget. We had dinner the other night for 1,850 people. That's amazing. And then I'm involved in men's ministry, so one of the ministries I'm involved in is the Honor Foundation, which helps Navy SEALs and Special Operations veterans to find fulfilling careers. So I've opened up my house several times already. I've opened up other men's houses for these young families to come and experience Greenville. And these are men and women who have made the decision to come live in Greenville because of the outpouring of warmth they receive from the Christian community. So those are the things I love to do.
Give them a hand. So just personally, I can attest to 2 things here. First of all, the first time I met Gary, right away he sent me a bio of he and some of the members on his team, and that bio was not a bio like you think of it, it was a testimony. And he was saying, this is who we are. And so that was just beautiful to me. And an incredible testimony for him and several of his team. So love that. And then also, I can tell you this Honor Foundation, just a personal story of one of my boys, his daughter was just getting to know a Navy SEAL who's over on the West Coast. And my boy came in the office and he was teary-eyed. He's like, you know, my daughter's really wanting to help him. He just came back out of the service, but he doesn't know what to do. And right away, God had already connected me to Gary, and I said, I know just the person. And I shot that over to Gary, and within minutes, I think Gary was already communicating with him. He's already been here from California, stayed at your house here just recently. So, I mean, I can't tell you the impact, not only that had on me, but on my employees, who's sitting there teary-eyed. He said, I can't believe this is happening. God's doing something here. So just amazing what this, what Gary is involved in and what he does. So thank you again. Okay, so as we said earlier, the theme of this month is servant leadership, or beyond servant leadership. So today we are blessed to have a special speaker. His name is Tom Blaylock. And his passion is to empower leaders at every level to experience and live out the grace and truth of Christ. Becoming a leader worth following in every sphere of influence and raising up leaders who have a life worth imitating are his goals. Tom has served as pastorate, coaching pastors, churches, denominations. He's also been a small business owner, as well as he's been married to his wife Sandy for 28 years. That's great. And she was actually your high school sweetheart, is that right? Okay. And they have 3 children in college. They actually live at Pollock Island, which is a great place to fish. I've been there many times to fish from India suddenly. And they also co-wrote a book on marriage on mission. Is that correct? In 2014. So now they travel the country. They speak together. They talk about things that are in their book. And so we're just thankful to have you here, empowering leadership and speaking on leadership. So thank you.
It's great to be here. Enjoyed my time in Spartanburg last week. Met a few of you there. And yes, my wife and I have been married 28 years. And I would say 28 good years. She would say about 22 good years, probably, if she were to be honest with it, which is part of what we write about in the book. And for us, and for Todd Mildy, who you're going to be here in a moment, my partner in Giant Worldwide, really our leadership story, whether it be in marriage, whether it be in small business, whether it be in the church world, our leadership story, the commonality that we have with so many other leaders is that our mess became our message. You see, my wife and I went through a mess in our marriage. I was a pastor, burned out as a pastor, never wanted to be in ministry again, didn't want to be in church, was done with it. Our marriage struggled for years. We never considered divorce as homicide during those years. It's kind of a joke, but not really. And it was, we were very, very broken, very broken. And when you experience the grace of God in your life, when you're at that broken place, when the truth of God penetrates to those deep places inside of you that are dark and that are wounded, and when God begins to bring healing and restoration, you have a story. You become, like me, the woman at the well in John 4, who met Jesus in her brokenness and in her mess, and that very mess of her life became a message of grace and truth. So that's our heart, and I especially have a heart for leaders and leaders in all realms, but because we experience so much pain and hurt in marriage and in church leadership, we have a special place in our heart for church leaders and married couples, because when you go through something that's painful, it becomes your passion. And God, isn't that great that God can transform pain into passion and your mess into your message? That's my life. That's why I'm up here today, is because I've experienced that. Not because I haven't figured out, not because I'm any better leader than anyone else in this room, but because I've been through that experience and God has opened the door to share that with others. So we're going to talk about leadership here for the next few minutes. And specifically, we want to look at the leadership of Jesus Christ and the way he did leadership. You see, I think we make a very common mistake as Christian leaders when we consider Jesus as a leader. We often think about the words of Jesus, and the words of Jesus are important, are they not? Amen? Words of Jesus. We better take seriously what he says. My family and I are headed to Israel in a few months for the first time ever. Part of our ticket to go to Israel with this Christian group is to memorize the Sermon on the Mount. Do you know how long the Sermon on the Mount is? Matthew 5, 6, and 7. Our family's memorizing that right now. So we are paying a lot of attention right now to the words of Jesus. And they're life-giving. They're life-giving. The words of Jesus, God created the world through his word. He spoke it. And Jesus is the word. And then we not only focus on the word of Jesus, we focus on the works of Jesus. What he did, his incarnation, his atonement, his teaching, his miracles. And rightly so, we need to pay attention to the works of Jesus. But here's what we forget about sometimes, the ways of Jesus. How did he do it? What were his methods? How did he go from a band of 12 to a movement that shook the foundations of the Roman world within 300 years? There were certain ways that Jesus went about it, and that's what we want to focus on today, are the methods and the ways of Jesus. So I've been in leadership for about 35 years, and in the leadership coaching space for the last 15 years. And I've learned a lot about leadership, most of it the hard way. And I'm going to share a few quotes with you about leadership that I enjoy. Hopefully you'll enjoy them. The first one is this: the man who smiles when things go wrong has thought of someone to blame it on. Right? And I think we've all been there, either the one smiling or the one on the other side of that person smiling. The second quote that I like: life is like a dog sled team. If you ain't the lead dog, the scenery never changes. Yeah. And this last one I love: success in almost any field depends more on energy and drive than it does on intelligence. This explains why we have so many stupid leaders. And if I were to be honest with you today, I'd have to say I have been a stupid leader. I have done some really stupid things in leadership. I'm probably not the only one in the room. I was a youth pastor, and I thought it would be a great idea to let people rappel from the ceiling of our church with a rope coming down the sanctuary of our church. Not the brightest move I ever made as a youth pastor. I thought I was going to lose my job over that one for sure. As a senior pastor and as a church planner, thought it would be a real creative, cool idea to play a clip from the movie The Matrix on a Christmas Eve service. My wife will never let me forget that one. I will go to my grave regretting that stupid mistakes I made. But when I think about the stupidest thing I've ever done, it would really have to do with our first question today. And the first question is this: am I ready to lead myself first? You see, here's what Paul said in 1 Corinthians 11:1. He said, "Follow my example as I follow the example of Christ." You see, I overlooked that as a leader. Here was the greatest mistake I made as a leader. I thought that if I could just give people the right information and do a great job teaching and become a great communicator, that information would create transformation. Well, it does not work that way, right? Have you figured that out yet? You have, haven't you? It took me a long time to figure that out. I just thought if I could have a better show, say it in a more compelling way, be funnier, bring in video clips, do all these creative things that I could just wow people with my information and it would lead to transformation. But there's a missing piece there, friends. Information alone will never create transformation, but information and imitation will create transformation. And that's what Paul says here. He says, follow my example. Imitate my life as I imitate the life of Jesus. Now that's a whole different story, isn't it? How do you feel about saying to other people in your life, follow my example, be like me as I follow the example of Jesus? That's a little intimidating, isn't it? Because I'm not quite there yet. I don't know about the rest of you. My wife got in a fight so loud a couple of weeks ago that I think the neighbors heard it, and I don't want you imitating that. You know? I mean, I've got hang-ups and problems, and we're still working on